Hey, so today we're talking about upper structured triads based on minor chords and dominant chords. You may have seen my upper structured triad video based on major 7 chords. If you haven't, check that one out first, because I think I will probably explain more about what upper structured triads are in that video. But upper structured triads are basically the top part of larger chords. So if you have a minor 7 chord, like A minor 7 for instance, you've got A, C, E, G, A, C, E, G, A, C, E, G. So that C, E, G is a C major triad. So C, E, G, the C major triad is the upper structure triad of an A minor 7. Now we can keep going with that concept of building triads upon triads upon triads. So if we keep that idea going, we've got our first one, which is C major. So what can we take from that is, if we have, let's say we have an A pedal, anywhere that we play a C major triad, with an A on bottom, we have an A minor 7 chord, right? So if we have our C major triad here, first inversion, we can put an A right underneath it like that. That way we can move it around to other keys and we don't have to have an open A pedal, right? Got a C major triad up here, put an A underneath it, got an A minor 7, right? Cool. Okay, so let's keep building off of that. So instead of C being the lowest note of the triad, let's make E the lowest note of the triad. So we'll have E, G, and then we'll go up to B. So now we have E, which is the 5th of A. We've got G, which is the 7th of A. And then our B is the 9th of A. So that E, G, B gives us 5th, 7th, and 9th of A. So we can play that E minor triad over A, and it'll sound good. So check it out. I have a A minor pedal here. And usually when you're doing these, if you're using them when you're soloing, it's good to kind of touch base with the regular A minor, just to keep things in perspective. Let your listener know what's happening. You know what I mean? So I was playing all around that E minor triad. So before we go on to another triad, let's extrapolate on that E minor idea. Right? So if we've got the E minor triad, what if we play the E minor pentatonic? If we play the E minor pentatonic over that A minor, let's see what that sounds like. So I was kind of going back and forth between E minor pentatonic and some other A minor stuff. So I added in that C just to touch base with with home bass. You know what I mean? Okay, so that was E minor pentatonic, using the E minor pentatonic over the A minor chord. So what notes are those? We've got E, G. So E is the 5th, G is the 7th of A. I'm talking about these in terms like what they mean to the A. So our E is the 5th, G is the 7th, the A is the root, B is the 9th, and the D is the 11th. So we get that 11 sound in there. We've also got the 9 in there. So that gives us a couple of color tones, you know? Okay, sweet. So let's keep going with another triad. Let's build off of that. We just did E minor, so that was E, G, B. Now let's make G the lowest note of the triad. And we have G, B, D. Right? So that's a G major triad over an A. And let's just listen to it, how it sounds as a chord. I'll play that A minor pedal again. And I'm just going to play different voicings for G major. Got kind of a different feel to it. It's because we have the 7th, the 9th, and now the 11th. So it gives a little bit of that sus4 kind of sound. The 11 is the same as the 4, same note, the D. So if we extrapolate on that the same way we did with the E minor, we get the G major pentatonic, which, as you probably know from my previous video, that the G major pentatonic is the same as E minor pentatonic. So nothing new there as far as pentatonic scales, right? Okay, so far, just to review, our triads over the A minor are C major. We can play a C major. We've got an E minor. We've got a G major. And I think that's it so far. Okay, now we could do the B diminished, but let's think in terms of the Dorian scale instead and make that F and F sharp, and we have B minor. So the B minor triad over A actually works pretty nicely. We've got the 9th, the 11th, and the 6th, or 13. So let's see what that sounds like in context with this A minor chord going on. So that was adding in some notes from the B minor triad. Sounds pretty cool, kind of like an open sound. It makes me think of, it makes me think of like Coltrane. I don't know if that's something he did or not, but that's definitely kind of has that sort of open vibe, right? So that was the B minor. Now let's see what happens when we play the B minor pentatonic. If we've got our B minor pentatonic, let's look at the notes we have. We've got B, which is the 9th of A. The D is the 11th. E is the 5th. F sharp is the 6, or the 13. And then A is the root. So we've got some good notes that should work in a Dorian kind of sound. So let's check it out. Nice. So I was started out just playing the B minor pentatonic, and then I added in some notes from the A minor as well. So A minor pentatonic and B minor pentatonic gives us some cool sounds. Okay, sweet. Let's keep going. So now we just did B as the lowest note, and that was B, D, F sharp. Now let's make D the lowest note, and we have D, F sharp, A. So that's a D major triad over A minor. So let's see what that sounds like as chords. So what notes do we have going on here? Well, our D is the 5th, F sharp is the 13th, and A is the root. So all those notes work, right? In a Dorian kind of sound. Now playing that D triad on its own, it's cool for a little bit, but it gets old after a minute. So sometimes pairing it up with another triad. Triad pairs is a whole other subject that I may do a video on. Or maybe we'll get into it today. I don't know. But if you pair that D triad up with the C triad up, if you pair that D triad up with the C triad, so you got the C triad and the D triad, check out what that sounds like. Okay, pretty cool, right? So I was doing voicings for C triad, D triad, moving them around. If you're unfamiliar with triads, check out my triads video. That'll straighten you out. But just real quick, so here's a C triad. Move it up 2 frets, you got a D triad. Here's another C triad. Move it up 2 frets, you got a D triad. Same thing here. Here's C, here's D. Right? Sounds cool over that A minor. Awesome. Okay. And then we get to F sharp. Now, F sharp I don't really do another triad with, because if we did F sharp minor, we would have that C sharp in there, right? That C sharp is going to sound like garbage against an A minor, unless it's just in passing. F sharp major, we have the flat 9. That's not going to sound the best over a minor chord. And if we do F sharp diminished, we have 2 repeating notes, the A and the C. It's really, we already have all those notes. It's like a minor 6 chord, right? What's left? F sharp augmented. Again, we would have that flat 9, so we don't want to use that. We would have the D, the 11th, but the flat 9 might kind of get in the way. Okay, so those are triads based in the Dorian mode, right? But the minor chord, there's a couple different ways that we can use it. We can use it as a 2 chord, or like a predominant, as in a 2-5-1, like A minor 7 to D7 to G major 7, right? And that would be a the function of that would be like a predominant or a 2 chord, right? But we can also have the minor chord be the 1 chord, right? So usually we use a minor 6 or minor major 7 for that. So that's going to give us some different triads that we can throw on top that are pretty cool. So let's start with making the 3rd, the C, the lowest note of the triad. And instead of doing the major, which gives us the flat 7, the minor 7, let's make it a C augmented triad. And now we have a minor major 7. use that over, you know, when the minor is a 2 chord, but when you're coming back home to a minor chord, like right? Right? So that's using that C augmented. And the augmented triad is symmetrical, so any one of these notes can be the root. So the C, it can be a C augmented, it can be an E augmented, and it can be a G sharp augmented, right? So any of those augmented triads will work over that A minor when the A is functioning as our home bass chord. Cool? Okay, so we've already knocked out our C, E, and G sharp in using the augmented triad. Let's get some other major triads that sound cool. Okay, so some other triads that work nicely over the minor chord. When it's functioning as a 1 chord, as the home bass chord, we can put a major chord based on the 5th, and it sounds cool. So check it out. This is, I'm just playing a minor triad on the loop. You heard that, right? So I was doing. So it's almost like going back and forth between the root, which would be A minor, and the 5th, which would be E7. So we're getting that E major triad in there, which gives us the 9th and the major 7, and of course the 5th being the E. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, so another one that works nicely is the major triad based on the 7th, because that gives us the major 7, the 3rd, and the flat 5, which gives a little bit of tension, but you can resolve it. So let me show you what that sounds like. And these are coming from the way that I'm thinking about them is coming from the augmented scale. So that would be a whole other video talking about the augmented scale. But you can get some cool like triad things out of the augmented scale. So let's see what this G sharp major triad sounds like over the A minor. Okay, so I was my ear was wanting to resolve it, so I wasn't playing only that major triad, the G sharp major triad. I was resolving some of those notes, like the G sharp can resolve to an A, the D sharp can resolve to a E, or I could go down. Some cool pairs of triads that you can try out with this idea over a minor chord. We can do this major triad based on the 5th on the E, major triad based on the 3rd, which was C, and a major triad based on the major 7, which is G sharp. So it's all major triads based on the notes of that augmented triad. Again, it's coming from the augmented scale. Right, so check this out. Here's our A minor. Right, so here's our E major triad. There's the C major. There's the E major again. Cool, right? I like that one. So let me show you what that is. Starting on the C and going down into my E major triad, which is B, G sharp, E. And then back to that G sharp and going down into my C major triad, G, E, C. And then down into my G sharp major triad, the D sharp, B sharp, or C, and G sharp. And you can continue that pattern, right? Pretty cool, right? So you can throw that in over a minor chord, and I like the way it sounds. I think it sounds pretty cool. Awesome. Okay, so I think that's good enough for minor stuff. Of course, there's always more. You know what I mean? There's always more stuff you can figure out. But I'm kind of taking you through my thought process on it. So hopefully it'll save you a few steps, and you can apply this thought process to other stuff, and figure out some things that I wouldn't have thought of.